Episode 19 of the Trackside Lounge, and we're not in the actual trackside-y bit because couldn't get in the garage today.
No. This is actually the original filming location, though. This is where it all sort of, well, we can't say started because obviously we had the original podcast, but this is where the reboot kicked off. Yes. So.
I think what it was we said with Carl Hannaford, we said we want to actually have a on the couch with Carl segment, and unfortunately it just hasn't been able to happen this week. So
we're not there. However, carrying on from where we were last week, the GTR festival we went to, and there were so many good cars. Carl has had a hand in so many great R35s. But one that really stood out for all of us, I think I'm right in saying that, right?
Yeah.
It was a car that, God, it looked familiar. It looked so familiar. And there was that surge of energy you got, and you think, I remember seeing this car on TV. I remember seeing this. This is a genuine Nissan GTR, was it R32?
Yeah, R32 Group A.
Godzilla. Yeah. A genuine Godzilla. So we thought, we better find out a little bit about this. So we had a chat to the who's restoring it's
Leese and Stu Rogers,
and from Christchurch.
Yeah.
And there's a story behind this car because it is a race car, but it isn't a race car.
And it is a GTR Godzilla, genuine as you can get. But they've done some amazing work to the car, and we had a chance to catch up with them.
So the original car was quite rusty, the shell that we had, so it was just a wee bit rough. And we thought, after a wee while, we sort of thought, we better actually do this properly and get an actual proper shell and do all the work that way. So the original shell was actually our wedding car. We bought it for our wedding because we both always had this on our bucket list. We wanted an R32 GTR and we wanted it as our wedding car. So we bought it. And it was quite rough and rusty, so we just thought, after that, it was okay as a road car, but not as a race car, just not that safe. So then we found the next shell, and basically that's when we got Gibson's attention, really. And we commenced the big build. So
I did notice that Fred Gibson's name is actually there under the bonnet, signed, and so too is Jim Richards. I mean, those are big power names. So to support the car, that's massive.
Oh, when FG first saw it, he came to Scope Classic at Wrapup.
FG.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Well, Stewie calls him a lot, so we actually talked to him about it. Yeah, he's lovely. Him and Christine are lovely people. But so he came to first Scope Classic when we finished that car, that second build, and he said, Stewie, it's like looking at a ghost. He said, put a cover on it, just show it to people. It should be in a museum.
Absolutely.
And so,
but it's not, is it? You guys actually use the car?
We built it to race it. So and get out there and get a bit of the sort of the history alive, keep it alive, and people remember it. You can see a lot of these young people coming through now, and they're like, my parents have talked about this. They watched it. They were watching that on Bathurst years ago, and it got kicked out too fast. And it's great to see that, and for people to keep remembering it.
Yes.
So it's a nice way to keep that sort of car alive because it doesn't exist anymore.
No, that's right, it doesn't. But the original car still exists.
No.
The first car you built?
Oh, the first car
you built. So not this original.
Yes.
But so you guys have built the original car, the other car, right?
Yes.
This is the second car, the better car, nice looking car.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there.
So
I mean, that's enough.
That car, the original car that was our wedding car, we tucked it away in a container up at the farm and just sort of left it for a while, and just sort of earlier this year, January, Joey said, we might get that out, we might actually do another race car. And I was like, okay, all right, we can do that. And so, that's out. It's at Chris Ward's in Rangiora at the moment, CWR, and he's done a lot with V8 Supercars, and he's worked with teams and things, so he knows what he's doing. So he's going to strengthen the cage up for us and fix it all up. We've built another motor for it, we'll go and do some sort of roll racing like you've seen here today and that kind of thing.
So this car, just this car we see today, the one here in the pits, when can we see that car next? Now, we're in Waikato at the moment. I'm an Aucklander. You're not an Aucklander. You guys are down in Christchurch.
Yeah, we're about an hour north of Christchurch. So, we're sort of way out in the middle of nowhere. And, our next event will be Scope Classic in February in 2025 at Ruapuna.
Fantastic. And V8 Supercars, when they come to New Zealand,
absolutely.
In Ruapuna, will you guys have the car there as well?
We will be there.
Will you have one car there?
Just the one. Yeah,
not two?
No, that's the only one we've got that qualifies for historic race cars.
Right.
So, we'll have that one there, and we'll have the other car out hopefully by then to go and do some more sort of the street sprints down in South Island. We get a few street sprints and things, series and stuff. So we'll travel around, do that, do some roll racing. Yeah.
So where can people follow this car? Where can they keep an eye on you guys and how the car's going? Whereabouts can they see you?
You can find us at RRT, Rogers Race Team, on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube.
Fantastic, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for telling us your story.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
Good on you.
Thank you.
I really like that car. I really like the R32. Interesting thing about that is because it's not a genuine race car, but it looks and it's built to exactly the same spec. That's what they call a replica or replica. And some people will go, oh, it's a replica. It's not the genuine article, but it's as close as you can get. You know, and they actually take that thing racing. So, whereas if you had the genuine article that had been at Bathurst and raced around the streets, honestly, you'd keep it somewhere like a museum, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. And you do see some events where the genuine article will come. Bathurst does some historic stuff, and then obviously there's Goodwood in the UK where there's all these priceless, race vehicles, but well done, proper built replicas like that. Like you say, it's not the genuine article. It wasn't on the streets of Wellington in the 90s.
It looked like it should have been.
It should have been, but because it's not the genuine article, they've got no qualms about giving it 10 tenths when they do, the races that they do sign up for. So it is such an awesome car. Group A was a heck of an era for touring car racing. I mean, that thing was so quick it got banned.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so
the thing that gets me about it though is like when we went to the GTR festival, there were so many great cars there, so many performance monsters and genuine performance monsters. I mean, thousands of horsepower. That R32 stood out like duck's nuts, didn't it?
100%.
Something else. That was the one you wanted to be next to.
And because that was the second car that the family had built, I mean, that was a really pristine vehicle in the first place. The first one was, as Leese said, was a bit rusty, but and as you said too, like if a genuine was wrecked and rallied and rolled and all that sort of carry on, you'd go, oh, what a loss. But if that car was written off or damaged or whatever, it would be an absolute genuine loss too, because it looks and it is built so properly. In fact, as was said, Freddie Gibson, signed off on it. Freddie Gibson literally helped them with, various
original plans.
Yeah, well, they've got Jim Richards' signature, in the car. Yeah. They've got Freddie Gibson's signature. Now, they don't go throwing their signatures around willy-nilly.
No, of course not.
But really cool. And I mean, I love a good replica, but when the earlier shot you got of that car, Nate, that thing just, the exhaust coming out the side, poking, mate.
I think there's something to be said about like the race cars and the touring cars of sort of the 90s and creeping into the early 2000s, but it's before they really cared about massive bodywork changes. Like the GT cars today, wider, lower, massive aero, they've got, they're aerodynamic, whereas it's pretty much just an R32 with some cleaned up body and a heck of a livery.
That was the Group A rules, wasn't it, which were introduced? Because prior to the Group A rules, you may remember, like you're watching Bathurst, they used to have, the Commodores with the puffed out arches.
Group C.
Yeah. They were something else. Yeah. Something else they were.
Absolutely.
The thing about that era of car, the Skyline we just saw, was that it was literally the old buy it on Monday sort of mentality, a similar car to what you can, and because it had the similar or the same spoilers, it had the similar or same everything in it. Maybe not the full roll cage and suspension, but it just it looked the same as
the car that you could get.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's something that's missing from today's car scene too. Homologation specials. I mean, you used to be able to get a BMW E30 Evo, and that was the DTM car. You used to be able to get the R32. They had the Nismo, which had the titanium turbo and a few other bits and pieces to really make it touring car. You just don't get that these days.
Rally was the same too. Wasn't it?
These days you can get the GR Yaris, which is wider, lower, and it's supposed to be the homologation model for their
hands
WRC.
up who's built a GR Yaris.
Not yet.
It is on the to do.
They're astonishing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Doesn't feel like 3 cylinders, does it?
Hell no, it actually feels a lot like getting hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat. It just launches, That's something else, those cars.
So anyway, so moving on from historic Group A. Obviously in the weekend we had NASCAR.
Yep.
Big one for the Kiwis, for SVG.
Yeah. What was his expression? Was it both ends leaking?
Oh, yeah, he wasn't well, was he? He was not well.
If that's Shea Gisbergen not well, then you'd love to see him on a good day, wouldn't you? Holy cow.
Well, what I love about that race is as far as the conditions, it looked pretty much similar to Chicago, where he won on debut.
Yeah.
Gloomy, overcast, a bit damp, a bit cool, and he just loves those conditions, doesn't he? I mean, I caught probably the last 25 laps of it. I think they'd just come out of their last caution. He was tyres and gas to the end, right, ready to go, and then he just walked away from everyone else. There was no, it was a second, then it was 3 seconds, then it was 5, then it was 15. I mean,
he just drove it like a rocket.
Just nothing.
One of the big things that I read about before that is they said there was going to be a camera in the footwell, and all of the rest of the NASCAR drivers were going to study what SVG does with his feet. Left foot braking, and just being able to manage the car. I do have a question though, right? When he goes to ovals, because he's clearly not used to that at this stage, he's learning all the time. But when he goes to the ovals, what was it, the last 3 races, there were issues when the car went into the pits, a wheel fell off, all sorts of... Gets on a street course where he absolutely burns the place down. Not a single problem when it comes to the pits.
Actually, like you said, around about 20-odd laps to go on one of the restarts, he said there's something wrong with the car. I think one of the wheels is loose. And there was a true story. And actually, the crew chief comes over there and he says, mate, we've double checked the last pit stop. We've double checked how they look at the little lights and they've got the torque things on the. He says all the wheel nuts are tight. And he's like, and Shane's words were, okay, I'm trusting you guys.
Okay,
but you're right about that though, because ovals, I'm not saying they're less harsh on the car, but they're more just turning one way and it loads up the right side and all good on the left. But street course, a loose wheel, it's going to come and rear its head no matter what.
But of course, there was something I did notice on that, and it should have occurred to me at the time, but cars that go on ovals, they're built differently, like completely. And it was not until they were coming down the straights in Mexico, and I was thinking, they look like normal cars. I thought, really? So I went back and looked at some videos, and of course there's a stagger, and they're wider on one side than the other because of the effect of the oval. And I thought, maybe that's what might be influencing Shane when he's on an oval. The car's a different shape and it is responding differently. And he's much more used to in his racing career of something that's built to go both ways. And it's a small thing, but I'm sure he's getting better at it.
Well, he is still going around the ovals and picking up experience. I mean, I think from the get-go it was always going to be fairly, not obvious, but the expectation was he was always going to be better on a road course than on an oval. But the way NASCAR is sort of structured and all the different playoffs and stages and stuff, I mean, they're in the playoffs now.
Yeah, how does that work, by the way?
I have no idea. But that win got their team into the playoffs. They're happy, so good for him. What I want to know is, does he just keep a football in his car at all times for if he wins?
Come from?
Oh, mate,
I didn't see if someone gave it to him or if it was in the car.
Well, with NASCAR, because they've got a boot, right? And the boot's just full of footballs. There's one in there every race, because Shane's going to kick it into the crowd whether he wins or not. The tip of the hat has got to go to Kyle Larson, though, who got T-boned, and they rebuilt the car with the sole purpose of just taking it out to get points to get through to the next thing, as you were talking about. So I don't know how that works. But on leaving the pits after the car was built, Kyle Larson said, and I'm quoting, "What's the lap record so far?" Oh. And then his next 7 laps were consecutive lap records for the race. So, I mean, he had absolutely nothing to lose. He had clear air, so the car was... But he went like a rocket.
I wonder if it's like Supercars and F1 where you get points for fastest lap. I wonder if...
even if it's not...
No, exactly.
If your weekend's that compromised, what better way is there to make a statement that you are still fast and it wasn't just an off weekend for you because I just did the lap records.
Now, I want to get back to SVG. I have a request, and I'm actually going to put it out there to everyone who watches this podcast because I have a Shane Van Gisbergen request, and I yell this out to Cheese, his dad, or to Anton from Waiuku Dirt Track Club, and you know who you are. You're a good mate of Shane's. Next time Shane wins, and I'm saying this because I believe he will at least many more times in NASCAR. Next time he wins, I'm talking about the burnout. Now, the burnout that he did, and I understand it, I'm taking into consideration he wasn't well, and it was a long race and all this sort of duration. I want to see... I've seen some awesome burnouts. I saw the Austin Hill one where he chased him around the whole lap, doing the big slideways, the whole thing. Didn't know how the tyres held together. This burnout wasn't his best. I'm now saying Shane was driving car number 88. Now, he was doing it on a beautiful orange surface. I think the master of burnouts can actually work out a way, and I hope he practices to make me right, is to work out a way to put number 88 on the wherever his burnout pad is and actually say 88 so that he is cementing the way, not just who won the race, but that he's won the race. I don't think we'd ask for an SVG. Maybe he'll leave a token rugby ball there for it as well, but, I want to see an 88 burnout. Yeah. I mean, is it possible? Surely it's possible.
Isn't it good, though? I mean, there we're racing at the weekend, Kiwis all over the place, and we started out by talking about a great win from a New Zealand driver, and, of course, all heads, and we must get to this again. Formula One in Canada, right? But let's start out with what is going on with McLaren? Doing so well.
Yeah. Originally a New Zealand manufacturer.
Yeah.
Originally.
Doing so well this year.
It's hard, isn't it? Because it's like, you've got two drivers. One's been in the game for a few years.
Just tell the story, because there might be someone who doesn't know what you're talking about. What happened in F1?
What we're getting at is that you got two drivers. One's been in the game for a long time. One is still comparatively fresh, and they're both doing really well. What a great problem to have for McLaren. But now you're having the teammates tangle. And unfortunately,
I watched it in the replays, and it's not what I would call a tangle. It looked like a deliberate maneuver. Ripped the whole front end of the car off.
Yeah,
it wasn't a mistake.
I'm not saying it wasn't, but it's like they either want them to race or they don't. Yeah, and I mean, because even was it Australia? They were having team orders as early as Australia, so. The narrative seems to keep flipping about they're allowed to battle or they're not allowed to battle. Or it's a bit hard to keep up. But, I mean, the fact is, DNF for Lando, so that really sucks for him.
Yeah.
But you see that Lando Norris, he goes right up the rear end of Piastri, and Fair gives him a thump, and straight away Norris is going, I'm sorry, that was my fault. Now, I was wondering, why would he do that? And I think that he was probably thinking he'd hit Piastri so hard that he may have popped his rear tyre. So he's damaged his car, and he's out for the race. Right. He may have thought, hey, look, because I would have thought too, to pop the tyre. Those carbon fibre front wings, on the rubber, it does a lot of damage. And I have a feeling he was going, I've probably wrecked his tyre or his rim or both. So I'm sorry, guys, that was me, because that's sort of like Oscar's out, and of course Oscar wasn't out, continues on and does manage to finish the race, and pretty well placed stuff. But boy, that was close to being a McLaren flop, instead of a positional. And I mean, they were battling for that position for an awful long time. And do you show some sympathy and say, I know you said it looks deliberate, but they were coming into a braking area, and I'm not sure if Piastri just touched the brakes a bit early or Norris just, The
fact still stands, though, there wasn't a car width on the left there. There was no gap. He was in the dirt either way. So, yeah, look, but then Canada is criminally understated as far as how complex it is. I mean, people look at it, the layout, and they go, yeah, that's pretty easy. Maybe they play the F1 games and they drive the track and, that's not too technically demanding.
Yeah.
But the problem is, because it's so simple, every single mistake costs you, and you need to be like, they've got the wall of champions. How close can you get to the wall of champions? And, even Lance Stroll, as much as people clown Stroll, he got just fractionally to the wall and it broke his car. So, it's easy to learn probably, but difficult to master. Every little input counts. So tricky stuff there. And of course,
one of us here sounds like a race driver. One of us is
one of us here has driven on the sim racing that track, I'm sure, because I haven't. I don't know what he's on about.
But anyway, and obviously, so guts for McLaren, also guts for Red Bull. What the heck's going on at Racing Bulls?
No idea.
Because the tactical, qualifying, they don't even let Liam out until there's like minutes to go, so he gets an out lap, one, maybe two good, attack laps, and he's sitting there going, what the hell was that?
Yeah, and he was going to get penalised anyway because it was a drivetrain change that he had, so he was always going to cop a penalty for that one. So he's got a new drivetrain, and during the race, it fails.
So the power supply unit of the PSU had been overheating all the way through that time. I mean, what you said about quali was right, but let's not forget, in practice 1, he was there, top 10 easily. Yep. Practice 2, top 10 as well. Practice 3, I don't think quite so much. But you got to remember the times these guys are doing that, in practice 1, 2, and 3 means nothing because they're all in the 13s and into the 12s. Means nothing. Qualifying was a 10.9 from Russell, and that's where they try really hard. But being that is like being it means nothing who actually does well in pre-practice 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't give you the full bones. They're trying tyres, they're trying compounds, they're trying this, they're trying that.
The question is though, at this point, I'm really starting to think that it's not the driver.
I think a lot of people are starting to think that too, because it's just
racing bulls you're talking about.
It's just lots of little things. I mean, even Isaac Hajar has been told, because obviously the whole thing with Max and the penalty points. He said he doesn't want to drive Red Bull if a seat comes up. He's not interested.
He's just come up saying that
he doesn't want to.
Now, I read something just this morning. There's an incident with Max Verstappen, and if it's cleared that it happened, it might activate a get out of Red Bull clause in his contract.
Okay.
Something to do with where he lands on the driver's table.
Oh wow!
But once again, and I've got to say this, doesn't this sound like a bloody soap opera?
Yep.
Ever since Netflix has got involved with this, and there's millions more people watching it worldwide, and that's fantastic. But the racing's gone up the shitter. It really has.
Yep. And the positions at the moment are not finished. So we still don't know first second. We don't know right through the realm. There's still changes. There's still investigations. There's still, I think, Norris is still to be sorted out fully. We've got more and more. I mean, it sounds to me like it's motor racing CSI. And in the last few weeks, I've been saying that I'm sick and tired of all of this changes post-race. It's worse with the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute shocker.
So if it does become like a spectacle, like it is going to be on Netflix, and there's probably going to be, there's already a film with Brad Pitt, but there'll be a film version of the 2025 season, and then there'll probably be a stage show. We'll be singing and dancing. We're the Red Bull team, blah, blah, blah. Jeez, we can edit that out, though.
Well, maybe.
Next, I'll make a movie called Cars. Oh, wait. There's
hey, wait a minute.
And what bad luck for Lewis Hamilton. Hit a groundhog.
I didn't just hit it. From the reports, he pretty much sliced it in half.
Oh, ready for the barbecue.
And he's talking afterwards about how saddened he is because obviously he loves all animals and it's really heartbreaking for him. And it's like, I don't think it's gone down too well with the groundhog either.
Yeah, he didn't like that at all.
No.
At least it wasn't Potsatani Phil or whatever his name was off the movie Groundhog Day.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah, good. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who watches movies, eh? IndyCar, quickly on IndyCar. Not a great day for the Kiwis.
No.
Scott Dixon came in 4th, Marcus Armstrong in 9th, Scott McLaughlin out of the racing. But I think the best bit was, and this is IndyCar in Bommarito, Joseph Newgarden, who was leading the race at the time, came around a corner and Louis Foster had hit the wall and buggered up his rear suspension, but was gluing himself to the wall as the cars were streaming past on the inside. Then 4 other cars are coming out of the corner. He drops down across the track. 3 of the 4 go wide. Joseph Newgarden thinks, I'll just shoot it down the middle, and pow, straight into the back. And what we saw there was the strength of the halo on the car. Yeah. Because, man, that thing was upside down and there was flames and all sorts of stuff coming out of it. Have you seen the in-car footage?
It's quite the fiery scene. And that's all down to the game of split-second decisions, isn't it? You know, 3 of them decide to go that way, 1 of them decides to go that way, and, he made a choice.
Who's hero, who's zero?
Exactly, exactly. Right, so it's you can't really, obviously there's blame, but you can't really read too into it about, you fool, because... he made a choice, and obviously drivers are racing with their lives. They're fully aware of what can go wrong when it goes wrong, but he made a choice. It was the wrong choice, and luckily we have such advanced safety systems today that he walked away.
And from what I understand, And of course, the thing about IndyCar was that after the race, there's no post-race investigation. I'm sure there's going to be one or two, but not changing of the regard. There could be positional changes because post-race, this guy's going to lose because of points. And there's no Netflix, is what I'm trying to see. That's how upset I am. I made Mike even move. Sorry, Mike. But what was really cool too was that Kyle Kirkwood, who was the winner after all the carnage, and that was actually his 5th career win, and it's his 3rd win for this season. So he was pretty happy about that. Pato O'Ward was 2nd, and Christian Rasmussen 3rd, and as you mentioned, was the 4th place. He was Scott Dixon. So good to see Dixon starting to get back into it, starting to pick up the pace, because he has had a pretty rough run this year.
Now, Scott Dixon, 6-time Indy champ, right? I read something the other day. He was asked by Elon Musk to become the front man for Cybertrucks.
Oh.
And he turned it down. He was nice about it, and he just said, look, at this point in my career, no.
Oh, how would you even go about that?
But, I mean, how much money do you think Elon was leaning on him for?
Yeah.
Oh, and I do have a quick question. It's to do with, and I thought I'd tie it in with the Elon Musk thing. You know how NASCAR, we started out with NASCAR, they were in Mexico? With the sort of, and this gets a little political here, folks, this is where the tariffs that Donald Trump has been imposing on Canada and Mexico. So the cars have gone to Mexico. How much is it going to cost to get them back into the US now? How much more is it going to cost?
What exemptions can they apply for?
Oh, yeah.
But all you've got to do with Trump, though, isn't it? Just put your arm around and tell him he's wonderful, and you don't have to pay anything. Isn't that what they do these days? Or
no, you give him an airplane.
Oh, right, right. One airplane.
Yes.
Who's got a Cessna? Right.
I was going to say something. No, I'm not going to now.
Fair enough.
Right, moving right along. We've covered IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, and in the weekend it was also LeMans.
Also endurance racing. We got 3 24-hour races in 3 weekends. We got Le Mans just happened.
Yeah.
Then we got Nürburgring. Then we got Spa. That's a pretty grueling lineup. So the big 3.
And Kiwis involved in all the Hartley is in there, and 2 other Kiwis.
Bamba and...
Jeez, we forgot.
There we go.
Wow.
There's that pause. I will point out this particular point. Since we had that moment of silence, that's not actually wrong with what happened with Le Mans, because there was a special moment of silence as well.
Yes, that's true.
Come on.
If you watch,
we've got to use that opportunity.
If you watch Le Mans at all, then you know that the late night commentary does get a little bit unhinged.
Oh, yeah, okay, look, we've all been involved with endurance racing that goes over 24 hours, and it gets blooming unhinged like about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. About 2 till 5 is sort of that golden...
the only person that's doing anything good is the driver in the car. Everyone else is Fruit Loops.
So for this year's episode, there was a rabbit that met the front grille of a BMW M4.
Oh, not a Volkswagen rabbit, but a rabbit. Okay.
And a proper, in true early morning commentary fashion, they did a whole minute silence for the poor rabbit. That happened. Not very often that you look at the finishing list, reasons for DNF, engine issues or, gearbox issues. Hit a rabbit.
Do you think that in some way may have influenced Lewis Hamilton in the Canadian race?
I'm sure he sent thoughts and prayers.
Now, if there's an animal heaven, could you imagine the rabbit and the groundhog sort of having hey?
Man, what happened to you?
Well,
it was Le Mans, it was a BMW. What about you? Lewis Hamilton.
Montreal, yeah.
Oh, Le Mans, Formula One. Which was it? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Which one would you rather get totaled in?
Yeah, and there will be Netflix in there as well with product placement.
There'll be a whole Drive to Survive episode about groundhog conservation and how we should be doing more to look after the groundhogs, and then Lewis goes and slices one in half, which, oops.
Because groundhogs matter.
Let's talk about this a little bit, right? So Montreal, every year they go there, they get groundhogs, right? So the problem is that track is on a man-made island, right? Essentially, so the entire rest of the year, it's a park. I think you can do cycling around there. It's very, because obviously Formula One's only there for a week, right? The problem with that is you can't exactly rehome the groundhogs because you're rehoming them for a week, maybe 2 weeks if you're doing post and pre-prep, but it's just something they just have to deal with because there is no alternative. You can't, otherwise you've got a barren, useless land for the entire 350 other days of the year. So that's, what is the solution there for groundhogs not getting themselves...
Well, you might want to edit this out later on, but what I reckon they could do is that they could, once Trump's finished kicking out all the people from America, I mean, maybe by next year they could just come and they go hunting for groundhogs and they'll just, kick them off the island as well. I mean, they're pretty good. Yeah. They'll be hidden in all sorts of places and crevices. I want to bring up, because it's been quite a bit into the segment, I think it's time we talked about Waiuku Dirt Track.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Because they ran their first round of the rally sprint out in the Waiuku State Forest on the weekend just gone.
I saw the pictures of a car upside down.
Yeah, there was a car upside down. Yeah.
A groundhog, perhaps?
It possibly was. I think he was swerving to hit a possum. But the really cool thing was they actually have the list on who won what because they have so many different classes. And the overall winner, they have the cars that run at dirt track. Then they have actually opened up to rally cars, 2- and 4-wheel drive, and some pretty cool cars. A lot of people turn up there for testing of the rally season proper. And there's a little bit of a code that we don't talk about who turns up, although some of them are significant New Zealand Rally championship contenders as well, and they may or may not have been.
Are you going to mention?
We can neither confirm or deny.
It's quite the well-kept secret, isn't it, the Waiuku Forest Rally?
But because 32
until now.
They had 32 cars, and it's round one, and there's some really, and they had the is it UTVs? They turned up as well.
Yeah,
ATVs,
yep, the little
these
farm
are
vehicles.
These are fire breathing,
beefed up. Yes,
yeah, absolutely. They turn, and they're usually the fastest thing there by spades. Other than that, other than the rollover, driver was fine. The car wasn't even too bad, to be fair. But
it looked like a pretty low-speed rollover, to
correct.
be fair.
Yeah. So happy days. First of their, I think they've got 5 or 6 rounds, and it's the next one's on the 29th. But so it means that next week we probably can't talk about Waiuku Dirt Track. So that is your moment for this episode.
Well done.
Thank you.
Anything else we want to cover in motorsport?
Motorsport, no. I've got a motorsport mate of mine who's getting married this weekend. I'm going to shoot down there in Kawerau and actually be the MC, Dave Shannon and Lena. So looking forward to catching up with them. But I think wrapping it all up for the Trackside Lounge, it's nice to be in your grotto, but the man cave is good. But hopefully, I'm looking for Carl Hannaford for On the Couch with Carl next week.
Yep, that's where we'll be on the couch with Carl next week. Got something special to show you that he's got hidden away at the back as well. So more on that later.